So the first thing that we want to do is we want to include some CSS, which for sure is about styling. So if you have no clue about CSS and HTML, please go ahead. You need some knowledge for Angular because we cannot start really with basics of HTML and basics of CSS because Angular is for a little bit more advanced web developers already. So HTML and CSS are really very, very basic, and you can watch any video about that, like 20 or 30 minutes, that will be enough. However, we also got TypeScript here, which will get covered after this video. Instead of writing all the CSS code down here, which is quite boring, I will copy it from our GitHub repository. You can also do that. Inside of that GitHub repository, you can find a commit for each important step with like with an information where you can see copy from here, right? And here is the GitHub repository. You can find it at github.com/tutorials/Angular -course -to-do list -app. And there you can find the commit history. It's here right now because I just really created that project just some minutes ago. You can see that because I will create it all over the way while I record this course. So right now for sure there's nothing, but if you later on click on that link or go to that repository, it will be full with some commits. And here you can then find the code you need to copy. So next commit which I will create is like about that CSS part, and then you can simply go ahead, go on that commit, find that CSS file and copy the content, and then you got the CSS code. Now we have that copied here and pasted, so our CSS file is fine. And one thing I already want to say is that each component by default contains 4 files. One for CSS, so styling, one for HTML, we call that the template, one for the actual TypeScript code, which is appcomponent.ts right here, and one for spec, which is mainly used for testing. Okay, so now we got CSS done here. Next up, I will close that CSS file, open up the HTML file. We got that app component paragraph right here, and instead of this, we will now bring in a table here, right, for our to-do list. So let's remove app component and create a table here for our to-do list. Inside of that div, we will add a CSS class, and the class is called container. Now, we really don't want to get into that too much. And inside that div, that first div, we have another div, and that one has a class which is called to-do list. And inside that to-do list, we have an input group. Again, you can just follow along, watch this, and then copy it from the GitHub repository. You don't have to really like copy paste it while I write it down. You can for sure do that, or you can write it down while I write it down, but you can simply watch me doing it and then in the end copy paste it. I think that would definitely make more sense, and you will not make any copy paste mistakes while just watching and trying to do what I do here. Okay, so we have a div, and inside that div, which is actually a class input group, right? It's our form which we can use to add and delete something, for example. We got an input, and that input is type text. So what should be added to our to-do list, right? A placeholder, we do to-do, there we go. And then we have a button here, and that button also has a class, and the class is set to add button. And all of those classes, we can find them in the CSS file. There we go. So one container, inside that container, to-do list. Inside of that to-do list, we have an input group. Inside of that input group, we have an input field and a button. Awesome. Now afterwards, right below that input group, we will create the actual table. And inside of that table, we have one table row, so tr. And inside of that table row, first of all, give it a class, which is even. We have a table data. And inside that table data, we have a pre. So pre, visit, and for example. And then after table data, we have one more table data. You will see why we have it like this just in a second. And we have 2 buttons. So let me copy that button here, paste it 2 times. adjust the content. So that's that one here is like X for delete, and this one here is done. And for the top one here for add button, we can add a plus sign, for example, right? So that we have some content there. Now this is remove button and this is done button. So let me just recap this. Here at the very top, at the to-do list, we have an add button. And right below, inside of that entry of our to-do list, we have a remove button and a done button, right? Now let's just copy over the complete table row, because one is even, and let's create one more which is odd. So this is the second one. Let's call it call that, for example. And again, we have remove and done. So the only thing right here is like we're adding another class which is odd. Right now we are for sure writing all of that hard coded, right? So we're just bringing that in. Later on we will for sure make all of this bound to real data, so that we don't have that only hard coded here. Awesome. So now let's copy both of them again, so that we have table row to table row, so that we have two new entries, one for even, one for odd. Let's copy that over, let's paste it in, let's adjust that. So instead of visit end 2 times, we can say go to gym. Probably it won't happen, but however, next up we got wash the dishes, and we can create one more. So simply go ahead and copy the even one again, and this is why I say just watch me doing it and then later on copy it from the GitHub repository, because it's like we're jumping through it, copy pasting, you know. HTML is very long and really not that easy to read if you just scroll through it, so don't get lost along the way. Just we're not doing any crazy stuff right now. You're not missing anything if you just watch me do it and then copy it later on, right? So just listen to what I'm explaining here, that's more important. Last one that we have is not go to gym, it's shop for the party. Awesome. So now let's save it like this. You can see a hot reload took place. So once I make a change and hit Ctrl S for saving, you can see that the build fires again and the changes that I made are getting compiled. So now let's go to our application and take a look. All right, and this is the result that we will then see. So this is only HTML and CSS. So the structure is nice and we also got the styling, but we have no functionality. So I can click on the buttons, but nothing happens. And when I write down something here into our input field, you can actually see that nice shadow effect then on focus, which is cool. However, if I write down hello world, for example, and I click on the add button on the right side, you can see that nothing for sure happens. And this is where the real fun begins, because we will now dive deeper into TypeScript and Angular so that we can add functionality to our application.